Are Liverpool overpowered? There's a reason I asked this question, and it's mainly because the two levels of analysis of Liverpool, whether you appreciate the analysis and what other people are saying or not, is one of two things. Either absolutely glazing this side, which is mostly from people who have very little investment in the team. And believe me, I obviously put some credence in narratives and feelings towards sides and fear and those kind of things. But broadly, I think a lot of the time, if someone's glazing a side, then they tend to have like other motives. And the other side of that is obviously the evaluation, which is picking at this Liverpool side and picking all of the little details. All of that leads to extreme conclusions. And you can only really make extreme conclusions 5 games into a season because, frankly, I don't think you can judge a team until 8 to 10 games into a season. You can look at their points total. You can also look at the performances. But you can also look at where every team in the league sits, and you probably have a better idea of how good they are. Liverpool have played a good cross-section of the league. We've played a lot of very competent sides, but also a lot of very vigorous sides and a lot of very aggressive sides, whilst we've also played a lot of defensive teams. We've also played sides who have been on the front foot against us and sides who have completely sat back. We've played variations in style, but very often, weirdly, the conclusion about Liverpool has been the same, despite the fact that we've adapted to each situation. Now, I don't personally believe that Liverpool are overpowered, but I think in evaluating this, what we are going to find are some interesting conclusions about this team. First of all, yes, it is impossible to fit all of this talent into one starting 11. Literally, you can't put 6 attackers on the field. You can't put that many defenders and expect the attack to still flourish in the same way. And you can't also have the same midfield as last season and expect Wirtz to be the same or expect Isak to be up top in the same way or Ekitike or Gakpo or Salah. Also because last season, you could argue we looked overpowered, but we're actually slightly underpowered in attack, which overall didn't give us the balance that we needed. We didn't have the outball that we very much needed last year through the middle. Nunez, great with the outball, but very often messes it up or sort of misses it when he's too deep. Diaz, obviously also a really great player, but very often deeper and looking to facilitate rather than be that guy that is just carrying and everyone plays off him. Salah was absolutely fantastic. But again, there's an argument for overpowered with Salah. We'll get onto that in a little while. Cody Gakpo, very, very consistent, very good at keeping width for the side, and I'll talk about him more in a moment. Now that we have all of these different pieces, though, the analysis will also follow that trend. People will say, hey, this Liverpool side, they've just got all of the pieces that they need. And to a massive extent, I think that's true. We have a lot of very talented players. And we have a repeatable system. We have Arne Slot, who's a very adaptable manager. By the way, we don't necessarily have a repeatable shape. Obviously, we always line up in similar shapes. We've always got 4 at the back. We've always got 3 up front. It's 4-2-3-1 or whatever it is. These are repeatable principles, though, this Liverpool team are playing with. And that also makes it hard to evaluate, or at least in these initial 5 games. We're also still bedding in a new striker who came in late towards the end of the window. We also have seen injuries to Frimpong, who probably changed a lot of the way that Liverpool play. We've also seen injuries to other people who have rotated into the midfield. We didn't see Endo yesterday. We saw Curtis Jones for a very short space of time. Liverpool will adapt a lot more this season, and it will make their long-term evaluation a lot more difficult for people like Paul Merson, who go, Liverpool needs to step up. But at the same time, we also played 3 games in 7 days. Premier League, Champions League, Premier League. We're going to rest all those players now against Southampton, and it's going to be Premier League, Champions League, Premier League again. These are intense times for Liverpool, and they need repeatable principles without having repeatable people. Last season, it became very evident that we got injured and tired I wouldn't even say very early, but early enough in the season that had Arsenal even been half good, we would have probably had to step up a little more than we did, and we wouldn't have been able to let those results, should we say, slip. If Arsenal push us a little more this year, we need players who not only are going to have rotated and not been tired, but aren't as predictable. And I think this side is about reducing the predictability whilst consolidating the talent. Those are the 2 things I think we've done in the offseason. So to go with that, yeah, there are a bunch of players who, when you can predict them, they do very special individual things. But Everton really did a good job of negating Liverpool yesterday, or at least on the weekend. And it was impressive to watch this Everton side at work. David Moyes is a brilliant tactical observer. It's not to say that he can then go out there and set up his team to play in the way that Liverpool play, but he knows if I break up the middle, I get the ball out wide, and I cross it into the box, I can cause the most damage to Liverpool. I can exploit their fullbacks being out of place. I can exploit the gap between the midfield and the defence, which is like, really have to play through that most of the time. A lot of sides try to play around it and back in. And I can basically try to reduce Liverpool in the best way that I know how. And credit to David Moyes and Everton for doing that. They will have felt a little bit hard done by after that game. And had we given up that 2-goal lead again, I certainly think against Everton and David Moyes, it probably would have been the hardest challenge to regain that advantage, especially given how late we would have had to do it. And given the small amount of added on time that we would have had. Which, again, even I was slightly confused by, but, hey, fans can't be choosers. Put that way. We are also looking at an overpowered evaluation from another standpoint. Having a wealth of opportunities and choices is obviously fantastic. I think that's great for this Liverpool team. But what we're also looking at is that we then have to complement those players. I think a lot of the evaluation at the moment of some of the players who are getting a little bit of stick is similar to that of last year. Last year it was Dominic Szoboszlai who got a lot of stick. He had to play a facilitative role. Last year there were a couple of people who were talking about Andy Robertson, a few people who were talking about Tsimikas, a few people talking about, in general, Cody Gakpo or that left-hand side for Liverpool and whether we could get more goals from like Luis Diaz. Gakpo, by the way, had a very meaningful contribution. But I think that a huge part and a huge evaluation of what I look at in this Liverpool side are those cornerstones of the team or the people who keep the shape whilst other people are busy doing very creative things. It's really important to this Liverpool side that the shape and the integrity of what it is that they're doing, the principles of what Arne Slot is doing, are repeated and repeatable. That is what Cody Gakpo is. He tracks back when he needs to. He offers width when he needs to. He is always doing repeatable things that other strikers can play off and open up a number of passing lanes, not only on the inside for Ekitike or Isak or Wirtz, but on the outside or inside for Kirkes or whoever it is that's going to be playing on that fullback position. And that's really empowered people like Andy Robertson. It's allowed him to go and get into that weird position the other night. It's allowed Kirkes to expand his game as he's learned to play alongside Cody Gakpo, especially after coming from Bournemouth, where he would have played alongside a slightly different and slightly more speed or pace-based player. But also at the same time, it's allowed this Liverpool team a point they can always look to that they know is going to be there. And that is why sometimes when that pass goes missing and Gakpo's been tracking back or whatever it is, it feels almost surprising that Liverpool give away the ball. But it's also frustrating then in the midfield when we don't manage to get the ball out, away from the central midfielders, out to kind of an inside channel, and then back inside to Mo Salah. And yeah, like having an overpowered, in inverted commas, team is kind of like, complaining about the wealth that you have. But you know that harnessing that power, harnessing that creativity and force, and, Liverpool are athletes. There are a lot of athletes at very top level. And, we are, that makes a 1%, maybe 2% difference. The thing that consolidates that 1% or 2% and multiplies it is Arne Slot, is the tactic, is the thinking of those players in the moment. We bought these players not only for their body, but their mind as well. And that's really important to Arne Slot on this Liverpool side, that they have thinking, problem-solving players. That is what Florian Wirtz is. That is what Alexander Isak is. They can produce moments of brilliance and solve an opposition very, very quickly outside of just the immediately available kind of tactical analysis that Slot has imbued them with before the game. But also it makes us hard to analyze, makes us hard to break down, makes us hard to, not for top-end managers, but in mainstream media, say, well, they are this. We have a number of really well-balanced inputs that are currently not actually clicking always. And they won't always click because there will be different periods in different games. We look at different areas. But that is partly my frustration. I think at the moment, what we're looking for is a football that was 2, 3, 4 years ago, which was a lot more ideological, should we say. So I think it's fair to say this Liverpool side haven't clicked. But I also think then it's a little bit weird to evaluate them as the best team in the league when they haven't even hit their stride and other sides haven't as well. We're not 10, 11 games in. But also to then criticise and say Liverpool need to step up. Yeah, this side are tired. We played 3 games in 7 days. Yeah, this side will have moments where they don't click because the opposition do solve them. But I don't think they'll ever last that long. And I don't think that any side in the Premier League, Liverpool have realised this, variation is a strength, will be able to solve us game to game to game to game to game. There probably will be a point where we have to change tactics this season. That is when Isak, Ekitike, all these different guys will rotate in and out. And that's my final point here. Rotation and consolidation of talent was so key in the off-season, and here's the one reason why. Slot subs and slots tweaks are so key to every game, not only to make us less predictable, less readable, but also to impact very specific places on the field that then Liverpool can then score a goal from, Liverpool can defend from, or Liverpool can take an advantage of the opposition's play from. And we consolidated in all those areas. Wirtz, Kerkez, Frimpong, Isak. We would have consolidated with Mokgehi as well. And we probably then would have also shifted to a slightly different formation and different build-up phase, but that would have been a whole other conversation. And I think that is what a lot of people are overlooking right now. They overlooked his subs. They overlooked Slot's brilliance so far this season because there have been a lot of late comebacks, and therefore people go, well, the manager let it slip. It's actually just really lazy analysis. Yeah, we're powered, but Slot is there to like harness this power. And I think overpowered was definitely a piece of clickbait, but it was also an evaluation of what it is to be this powerful in the league and how we can actually productively channel that rather than let it become almost a Galactico level of squander. Because I think at the moment, a lot of people are acting as Liverpool is squandering things in the league. Anyway, I appreciate what you guys are saying. There is a membership down there. There is a Patreon over there. There, of course, is a super chat. There is also an absolutely free Discord. Go and become a member in there, and I appreciate you guys watching. I will also be back later with another video. And, of course, I'll be talking about the fallout from the weekend. I will chat to you in a little while. Much love. Bye-bye.